I am continuing my reading. What I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a bit as I move along. Daniel, chapter 1. Of course, Daniel, most of his book is fairly well known, fairly famous, so let's see if we can glean any new information. Daniel and certain Hebrews are trained in the court of Nebuchadnezzar. They eat plain food and drink no wine. God gives them knowledge and wisdom beyond all others. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. Before we continue, remember, in our histories we read, it gave 11 years of the reign of Jehoiakim, covered in about 3 verses. It did mention that in his reign, Nebuchadnezzar came and put him to tribute. Didn't say what year this happened, but also stated that the intention of Babylon was to carry Jehoiakim captive into Babylon, which never actually happened. But we see this, there are these two invasions of Babylon during the reign of Jehoiakim. The first one, in the 3rd year, this is when Judah is conquered. When Josiah died, Egypt made Judah a kind of vassal state, put them to tribute. And that was under Jehoiakim. That's when he became king. 3 years later, Babylon drives Egypt out of the land and takes control. Now they're paying tribute to Babylon. So it's in this first wave that Daniel is talking. We're reading here, 3rd year of Jehoiakim. So let us continue, verse 3. And the king spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored, and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge, and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning in the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat, and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names. For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and unto Azariah of Abednego. Here's our setup. 3 years for them to study and learn. He's giving them all the food they need. He's providing them room and board while they're studying. Now this is the learning in the tongue of the Chaldeans. So this is the language of Babylon. They're not learning Hebrew. They're learning a new language. And the Chaldeans, as I've said in a previous video, they were kind of the warrior class, but they're the ruling class. I said they were the warrior class before, but they're not just the warriors. They're the ruling class, which means they're also the scholars. They're the generals. They're not the lowly soldiers. They're the commanders and the scholars and the religious leaders. These are the Chaldeans. So now let us continue. Verse 8. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God had brought Daniel into favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse liking than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, and the countenance of the children that eat of the portion of the king's meat. And as thou seest, deal with thy servants. So he consented to them in this matter, and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. So this is, again, a very famous story. A couple of things to note here, of course. The prince of the eunuchs, Ashpenaz. Now, eunuch, as we know it today, means a castrated male. But that's not what it necessarily meant in the ancient days. It was just the servants. He's the head of the household. Now, the head of the household put Ashpenaz put Melzar as a direct overseer over these 4 Jewish boys here. Because in kingly courts, there was actually a very, it was divided very minutely in levels of authority. So over these 4 kids, Melzar may have had up to 20 that he was overseeing. And you'd have other ones being oversaw by other servants, and they all reported to Ashpenaz, who was the head servant. But we all understand the story. When it says pulse, this is basically fruit and vegetables. Now in verse 10 it says, I fear my lord the king. Who's liking? Why should he find your faces worse liking than the children that are of your sort? When it says your sort, that is your age. So, in other words, these people, the people that are being trained, are being separated by age groups. They're being put into groupings according to age, and he's saying, look, after 3 years, if you're not as healthy and as good looking as the rest of the kids your age, then it's going to look bad on me, and I might get in trouble. They might even kill me. So, and it's not unlikely. Anyways, let's just finish this out. Verse 17. As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Now at the end of the days that the king had said he should bring them in, then the prince of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king communed with them, and among them all was found none like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore stood they before the king. And in all matters of wisdom and understanding that the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers that were in all his realm. And Daniel continued even unto the 1st year of King Cyrus. Not only did they not suffer from this diet, they actually were blessed by God with great wisdom. And after 3 years, Nebuchadnezzar brings all these students in, and he talks to all of them. Now, we're not certain it's not really clear if he talks to them all as a group or interviews them one at a time. I think it's more likely that it's more one at a time. He's looking for people to make advisors. He's looking for people to bring in to help advise the king. I mean, he's building up a big empire. He needs infrastructure. He needs a bureaucracy, and that's what he's looking for here. And I'm sure he's thinking, who better to oversee these people, the Israelite captives that he's brought in, than other Israelites? And I think that's what he's trying to build up his infrastructure, his bureaucracy. That's what he's doing. And he finds these 4 young men to be more intelligent, more wise, and understand things more deeply than anybody else. Not just more than their classmates. It says that they understood things better than any of the astrologers in all the kingdom. These were young men, after 3 years, maybe 18, 19 years old. And they were smarter than all the ancient astrologers, all the men who had been studying this stuff for 30, 40, 50 years. These kids showed themselves more intelligent, more wise. Now, on a final note, it says he continues to the 1st year of Cyrus. Now, there's no indication in the book of Daniel itself that he went beyond the 1st year of Cyrus. I believe he does mention in one of his visions that he received his vision in the 1st year of Cyrus, and he was thrown into the lion's den after Persia conquered Babylon, but that could have still been in the 1st year of Cyrus. So it may be that shortly after after Persia conquered Babylon, that he died. I kind of think that he probably lasted a little bit longer, and this reference that he continued to the 1st year of Cyrus is just to say that he continued for the entire Babylonian reign. As long as Babylon was there, he continued in the court of Nebuchadnezzar. He continued in the king's court until that court no longer existed when Cyrus conquered. I think that's probably what is more likely saying, just giving us this, that he was in the king's court the entire time. We'll leave that here, and we'll pick it up in chapter 2. So, see you there.